And yes, we are really happy to celebrate the International Day for Food Safety because we want to raise awareness on how to, you know, control and mitigate the risks. We will invite Rino Cosibi. He is the director of the Aptos Fever in the PAHO in the WHO too for welcoming remarks.
Muchísimas gracias,
Thank you.
Raúl.
Thank you, Raul.
Eh, un saludo e agradecimiento
Thank you. It's really important for
a
me to be
todos los que
here
están participando
and
a este evento en
for all of
celebración
you
del
who
Día
are
Mundial
here
de la Inocuidad
celebrating.
de los Alimentos.
I'm really happy to
Es
be
un
with
saludo
you.
especial a los amigos y colegas
I'm
que
happy
nos
to see
acompañan
my
en este momento
friends
de apertura.
here
Mario
in this
Luther King,
moment.
el
Martin
subdirector
Luther
general
King,
de
the Vice
representante
Director
regional
and
para América
representative
Latina y
of
Caribe de la
for Latin
OAS,
America at
José
PAHO,
Ordaz,
and
gerente
Jose
de programa de
Ordaz
SAIA de ICA, Raúl
from
Rodas,
ICA,
director
Raúl
ejecutivo de
Rodas,
IRSA,
Executive
Larry
Director from
Rivera,
UIRSA,
director
and
ejecutivo
Larry
de
Rivera,
Agrocalidad.
Executive Director from
Es importante
Agrocalidad
recordar
in
que el Día Mundial de la
Ecuador.
Inocuidad
It's important to
de los
remember
Alimentos
that
fue
the
establecido en la Asamblea de
disease, I
las
mean, that
Naciones
the
Unidas en
this day was
2018 con
established
el
in
objetivo de
2018 in the
destacar
General
la
Assembly of the
importancia
UN
de
with the
prevenir e
idea of
identificar el
preventing,
determinados
identifying, and
riesgos
mitigating the
relacionados con los
risks
alimentos.
related to our
Este
food
día busca
industry.
promover la
This day
seguridad alimentaria,
wants to
la
promote
salud humana,
the
la
food
prosperidad
safety, food
económica,
security,
las
economic
actividades
prosperity,
agropecuarias, el acceso
the
apropiado del
agricultural
turismo de alto
activities,
desarrollo
access to
sostenible.
markets, and tourism and
La
sustainable
inocuidad de
development.
los alimentos es una prioridad de salud pública a
Yes.
escala
So
mundial.
the
La preocupante
event is
realidad es
important
que el
because
consumo de
we see
alimentos
that the
insanos
reality is that the
representa una
unhealthy food
amenaza para
consumption
nuestra salud y
represents a
bienestar.
threat for our
Según el último
health and
estudio de la
welfare.
OMS, las
According to the
enfermedades
last study of
transmitidas
the
por los
WHO,
alimentos afectan
the diseases
anualmente
that are
más de
foodborne, they affect
77
more than
millones de personas
77 million
en
people
nuestra región.
on Earth,
Es lo que
in our
hace
region actually.
más
And
alarmante
which is even more
promover nuevas
striking, they may
muertes
cause
diarias.
9,000 deaths per
Cierto
year.
grupo de nuestra población
A
son
certain group of
particularmente
our
vulnerables:
population is
los
especially
lactantes,
vulnerable.
los niños, las mujeres
Breastfeeding women,
embarazadas, las personas
breastfeeding
mayores y
babies,
aquellos con
older
enfermedad
people,
crónica, como también las
people with
personas
chronic
inmunodeprimidas.
diseases, and
Es nuestro
immunosuppressed
deber
patients. It's
protegerlos
our
y
duty
garantizar
to
que los
protect
alimentos que
our people
consumen sean
and
seguros.
make sure that the food they eat
Las
is
enfermedades
safe.
transmitidas por los alimentos no solo rappresentano un desafío per la salud
Foodborne
del individuo,
diseases,
sino que
they
también
represent a
limitan el
serious problem
desarrollo
for the individual. They
socioeconómico de la
limit
comunidad
the
de nuestro
social
país.
and economic development of the
Estas
region and the country.
enfermedades ejercen
These kind
presión
of diseases,
sobre los
they
sistemas de
put some
atención
pressure
médica,
on the
dañan la
healthcare
economía,
systems.
al
They
turismo y comercio.
affect
En nuestra
tourism,
región se
economy, and
estima que las pérdidas
trade.
anuales
In
de
our region,
y
we estimate
productividad
that
de
we
la
have a loss
sociedad
of
alcanza
productivity
a los 7.4
around
billones de dólares, recursos
$7.4
que
billion,
podrían destinarse a
resources that can
mejorar
be
la calidad de vida de
devoted to
nuestra
improve
población.
quality of our
El
people,
lema de este año
quality of
destaca
life
la
of our people.
importancia de
I believe the
prepararse
slogan
para
of this
situaciones
year,
imprevistas
prepare
que
for the
puedan
unexpected,
comprometer la inocuidad
is
alimentaria,
definitely the best
enfatizando la
theme because we need
responsabilidad
to focus
colectiva desde
on
los
food safety
productores
and
hasta los
highlight
consumidores.
the shared
La
responsibility that we have
globalización
from
ha
the
llevado a una
field to the
creciente
table.
interconexión
I
de
believe
las cadenas de
we have an
suministro
interconnection
global,
today on the supply
aumentando
chain when
así
it
los
comes to
riesgos
food,
asociados
and
a
we see that the
escasez y
risks
fraude,
associated
pudiendo
for
escalar
unsafe
rápidamente
food
de un problema local
is
a
getting
una
higher, and we
emergencia
may
global.
go very easy from a
El
local
cambio climático,
problem
cada
to a
vez
serious
más
global
intenso,
problem, and the
con
climate
sequías
change
severas, inundaciones o
is bringing
problemas
us
meteorológicos
floodings,
extremos,
is
representa un
bringing
frecuente desafío para los
droughts,
sistemas
and that's
alimentarios.
really complicated when it
Las
comes to
fuertes
producing
lluvias e
food.
inundaciones que
The heavy
afectaron el estado
rainstorms
de
that
Río Grande
have
do Sul
affected
en
Rio Grande
Brasil
do Sul
son
in
un
Brazil
ejemplo del
are
poder
just an
devastador
instance
de
of
estos
the
eventos
devastating
que
power
resultan en un gran
of this kind of events that may reduce the food and safe water access to people and make people missing, disappear. So we are definitely uh, grieving for those who were affected by this disease, by this situation. So we need to be, we need to trust our food industry and we need to develop a resilient system that can be sustainable and that can be based on the multi-sectorial or the multi-stakeholder contribution with monitoring systems, with early warning systems, and a very effective communication. And we understand that individuals and governments, they play a role when it comes to managing the food problems. A resilient system, food system, is sustainable, and that's a symbol or a sign of what we need to do in order to get to a real concrete action. Pan American Organization, PAHO, together with PANAFTOSA, our center that is specialized in food and mouth disease, we are definitely eager to bring training for Latin American countries so they can deal with the different challenges they have in order to make sure that the health and the safety of population is being taken into account. We want to add efforts to other with other agencies and governments and consumer associations and the academia so we can help the food supply chain be the best. So we invite you in this very important day for us to join us in our efforts because food safety is definitely one of the topics that are crucial for everybody and we can have a better future if we do so. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Otorino. So, Dr. Mario Luberkin, regional representative from FAO, please.
Llamamos al doctor Mario Lubet King, representante regional de la
Yeah.
FAO,
Let me
para
invite
ofrecerle
again
las palabras de bienvenida.
our dear Mario Luberkin, please.
Estimadas y estimados participantes, es un honor
Dear
dirigirme a ustedes
participants, I'm
en el
really happy
marco
to
de
be
la
here
conmemoración del Día Mundial de
to
la
say hi
Inocuidad de los
in this important
Alimentos en
event
este encuentro que nos
that
convoca a
we're
reafirmar nuestro
here in this
compromiso con
event
una causa
to
que es fundamental para la salud
make
pública y
sure
el
that
bienestar de nuestras
we're
comunidades.
definitely
La
enrolled in this
inocuidad de los
situation
alimentos
because
es una
food
responsabilidad
safety is a
compartida que
shared
requiere la
responsibility
colaboración y el esfuerzo
that
concertado
requires
de
the
todas y de
effort of
todos,
everybody,
desde los
from everybody,
productores y
from the
distribuidores hasta
producers,
los consumidores
distributors,
y las autoridades
and the
regulatorias.
consumers and the
Sin embargo,
regulatory
incluso
authorities.
cuando todos cumplimos con nuestras
However,
obligaciones,
when we
existen
are doing
circunstancias
our part, there
imprevistas
are
que pueden
circumstances that are
comprometer la
unforeseen and that
inocuidad de
we
los
can
alimentos,
see that the
lo
food
que nos
safety
recuerda
can
la
be
necesidad de
affected
estar
by
siempre
that. And we
preparados y vigilantes.
remind
Las
ourselves that we need
enfermedades
to
transmitidas por
be
los alimentos generan
always
grandes impactos
with
en la
eyes
salud de la
wide
población.
open.
Se
This may
estima que a
generate
nivel
serious
mundial
impact in
600
population
millones de personas,
healthcare.
es decir,
We
una de cada 10
understand that
personas se
600 million people,
enferma por
one out of
consumir
10
alimentos
people in this
contaminados y
world,
que
get sick for
420 mil
foodborne
personas
diseases and
mueren
more or
al
less
año por esta
440,000
misma
people
causa,
die
donde
and per
lactantes,
year,
niños
but
y
for the
niñas y
same
ancianos
cause.
son los grupos
So
más afectados. Las enfermedades
breastfeeders,
transmitidas
old
por los
people,
alimentos son
like
una carga
elderly
económica
people and children are
significativa
the most
para los
affected.
sistemas de salud
It's
y
a
las economías.
huge burden
En
for
países
the
de
economies and
medianos y
the
bajos
healthcare
ingresos, los
systems.
alimentos
So
no inocuos
in
significan
mid-range
una
and
pérdida de
low-range
productividad que alcanza
economic
los
status
95
countries,
billones
that may
de
affect
dólares al año
people in
según
their economy like
estimaciones de la
$95
comunidad.
billion dollars
El
per year
panorama de
can
la
be lost
inocuidad
due to
alimentaria
lack
es
of
dinámico
effectiveness and
y
productivity.
está en
It's a
constante
dynamic
evolución,
scenario and is
influenciando por una
changing
serie
all
de
the time.
factores como el cambio
And due to
climático,
several
las tendencias
factors
en
like
la producción
climate
y distribución de
change or the
alimentos,
trends
la
in the distribution
globalización del
of food
mercado,
and the
los avances
globalization
tecnológicos
of the different markets and the changes in habits and demands of people that may cause definitely serious problems affecting the environment and the food production, and new emergencies and new risks start to mushroom all around. So be prepared for unexpected challenges that may affect food safety is paramount, and adopting new systems to control food, including regulation, official controls, and cooperation between the different interest parties or the stakeholders can definitely be welcome for the safety of our food that is traded nationally and internationally. This year, under the World Food Safety Day, let's get prepared for the unexpected is definitely a call to action for a shared intention so we can help each other in the food safety chain. And I want to say thank you to PAHO and the Pan American Center for the Foot and Mouth Disease, PANAFTOSA, the International Organization for Food Safety, and all the other institutions that are represented here. We've been here for 40 years to celebrate the World Food Safety Day in the region, and we confirm our technical support to the country so we can have sound systems that may make sure that our food is safe, and new production systems that can help people to get access to safe and secure food in the future without leaving anyone behind.
Greetings from Rome.
And hello from Geneva, everyone.
Luego de las palabras del representante de
Yeah,
la FAO,
thank
llamamos
you for those words, and let me invite then Jose Urdaz, who's the SAIA program manager at ICA.
Muchísimas gracias, Raúl.
Thank you,
no puedo
Raul.
encender mi cámara.
I cannot
No me
turn
está
on my
permitiendo
camera
el host
for
ahora.
an unknown reason. I don't know what I
Listo.
gotta do.
Excelente.
Yeah, thank you.
Bueno, muy
I'm
buenos
sorry.
días a todos. Un
Yeah.
gusto nuevamente en
Okay, good
ser un
morning,
placer estar
everyone.
aquí
Again,
con
I'm really
importantes
happy to be
organizaciones
here
internacionales y regionales compartiendo este importante
working
momento, ¿no?
with you.
El ICA se une
And
a la celebración mundial por el Día de la
we
Inocuidad de
are
los Alimentos.
joining the
Estamos
celebration
comprometidos con la
in
tarea de
this
llamar la atención
World
y
Food
cuidar
Safety Day,
a
and
todos
we're
los seres
highly
humanos a
committed to
prevenir,
inspire
reparar y gestionar
organizations in
problemas de
order
inocuidad
to
alimentaria,
identify,
comprometidos con los
prepare,
esfuerzos
and
para
mitigate the
proteger la salud
risks
humana,
on food
promover la
safety,
agricultura, el
promoting
comercio y el desarrollo
actions for
sostenible.
human health, for
Como ya hemos
sustainable
mencionado
trade,
anteriormente, este
and
es el
for
cuarto
the
año
different
consecutivo
activities that we
que las
may have. This
organizaciones
is the fourth
internacionales y
year
regionales
in
como el CECELAC, la FAO,
in a row.
IFSA,
We have
OPS, PANAFTOSA
FAO,
y otros
ICA,
nos
IRSA,
unimos para
PANAFTOSA,
celebrar el
PAHO,
Día Mundial de la
WHO,
Inocuidad de los Alimentos
BPH,
con el objetivo
getting
de
together
lograr
to
una
celebrate the
sociedad sin
World Food
inocuidad
Safety
de los
Day.
alimentos
So we make
basados
sure that
y
we
resaltar la
definitely need
importancia de estar
food
preparados para
safety
lo imprevisto
so we can be
y cuál es
prepared
el
for
tema
the
oficial para este
unexpected
año.
things, which is the official
Reconociendo
theme
el
for
papel
this
del
year.
Codex Alimentario y la
Acknowledging
ciencia
the
en
role
la
of Codex
elaboración de las normas
Alimentarius and
mundiales en
science
materia de inocuidad,
on the
estamos
creation of
comprometidos
the
en
international
promoviendo la
guidelines on food
participación
safety, we
de
are
los
highly
países en
committed
este foro mundial
on
y sus
promoting the
compromisos
participation of
nacionales.
the different
Este es
countries and
nuestro
their
foro
national
consecutivo
committees
y por ello
so
instamos
we
a
can
todos
be
a
here
buscar sinergias
together. We
y
know this
generar
is a
propuestas
joint
concretas
effort
y
and we
operativas
want to
para
develop
que sean los
processes
países
and
productores quienes lideren los
proposals
procesos de
so the
desarrollo.
countries can lead
El ICA
the
también promueve el
international
conocimiento y
processes
difusión de
too.
normativas de inocuidad
ICA or
alimentaria
ICA
de
is
países que
promoting also
constituyen
the food
los
safety
principales
initiatives of
mercados
countries
emergentes,
that
como Estados
compose
Unidos y
the
la Unión
main
Europea. De esta
destination
forma,
markets like the
colaboramos con
European
diversas
Union and the
universidades
United
para
States. So
facilitar
we
capacitación a
help
nivel hemisférico
with
para que
different
los países
training
exportadores
sessions and
conozcan las
the
nuevas
hemisphere
tendencias
level
e
so countries
innovaciones.
can get to
En
know
todos
the
los países
different
estamos ampliamente
requirements
dispuestos a
in terms of
acompañarlos
food safety.
en sus
We're
procesos
highly
de modernización en
available
los
to
sistemas de inocuidad de
help you
alimentos.
with the
Finalmente, hemos
modernization of your
ayudado a
systems
nuestra
when it comes to
cooperación
food
técnica
safety
en inocuidad en
initiatives, and
enfoque
we're
uniforme
cooperating
de la clara
bringing the
comprensión
One
de la
Health
convergencia de la
approach
salud humana,
with the
la sanidad
convergence of
animal y el medio
healthcare,
ambiente en
human
armonía con
health,
el tema de este
animal
año
health, and
de que
environmental
inocuidad de
issues,
alimentos
so we
preparémonos
can
para
have
lo imprevisto.
so
Ante
we
las
can be prepared for
amenazas
the unexpected in the end of the day.
es importante
Seeing
dar
all
una
the
mirada
threats that
integral
we
a la
have
salud
around
de
us, it's
todos,
important to have an
como ven aquí hoy,
integral way
un
of
planeta
seeing the
Para destacar esta
our
celebración,
health status and our
tenemos
food
preparado
in
el
a
Día del
very healthy
Internacional
planet.
virtual en el cual
Today,
participarán diferentes
we will
sectores
have a
de la región
seminar, a
atlántica, la América y el
webinar
Caribe, a
from
través de sus charlas magistrales
with
con temas
different
como
specialists
fortalecimiento de los
and
sistemas de
topics such
seguridad,
as how to
estimación de
make
la carga global de
how
las
to
enfermedades
strengthen our national
cardiovasculares
food control
y un
systems,
panel
how
con
to estimate the
actores de
global burden of
academia,
foodborne
gobierno,
diseases,
sector
and some
privado y
perspectives from the
consumidor, en
government,
donde
private
a la misma
sector,
vez
consumers
resaltaremos
that will
la
answer the same
importancia
question
de la
from their own
investigación. Para
perspective,
el Instituto
and
Interamericano
it
de
will be
Obesidad
very
y para la
interesting. So
Agricultura es un
for
honor
our
nuevamente
institution,
participar en
it's
este
a
evento.
honor to be here,
Reconocemos que la inocuidad
and
es un tema de
we
gran
acknowledge
importancia a
that
nivel de toda la
safety, food
región.
safety, is a
Hoy
very
contamos
important
con el
topic in the
Programa
region.
Hemisférico
We
de Equidad
have
Agropecuaria,
a
Equidad y Calidad del
hemisphere
Alimento,
level
el cual
event
desarrolla
that is
actividades a
developed
nivel regional
or is
y
focused
nacional,
on food safety and
trabajando
food
cada país
security,
de la mano con
working
las ONPF,
with all the
los
countries,
ministerios,
working with the
fondos de
ministries,
investigación,
with the
academia, por
research
supuesto, con
institutes,
nuestros
and the
productores.
different national agencies so
Recordemos
we
que la
can get
inocuidad de los
to our
alimentos es un
producers
asunto
and
de
talk to
todos
them and
y
be
debemos estar
aware that this
preparados
is a
para
topic that is
prevenirlo.
important for
Muchas gracias
everybody
por
and we gotta be
acompañarnos el día de
prepared
hoy.
for the unexpected. Thank you for being here.
Muchas gracias, José.
Okay,
Y gracias por la información
thank
también del
you,
seminario
Jose,
que
and
han
thank you
organizado
for
para la
the
conmemoración del Día del Internacional.
information on the
Le
webinar
paso
that
las
you have
palabras al
prepared.
ingeniero
So
Raúl
let me
Rodas, quien
give the
es el
floor to
director
Raúl
ejecutivo
Rodas, the
de
executive
Organización
director
Internacional Regional de
of the
Sanidad Agropecuaria,
OIRSA.
OIRSA.
Muchas
Okay,
gracias, Raúl.
Raúl,
Deseo iniciar nuestra participación
thank you.
saludando a nuestros
Thank you.
amigos
Let me
que nos
say
acompañan
hi
en el
in the first
presidio
place
de
to our
esta
friends
importantísima y alegre reunión
in
que
this
hemos
very
puesto en el
important
presidio, a Mario
meeting. We have a
Lubetkin,
Torino,
a
Mario
nuestro gran
Lubetkin,
amigo José
Mario
Ordaz, por
Lubetskin, we
supuesto, y a
have Jose
Larry
Ordaz,
en
and
Ecuador
Larry,
desde
Larry Rivera
Agrocalidad. Un abrazo
from
fraterno y
Agrocalidad.
muy
Thank you so much
especialmente también
for
a
being here,
todos los que
and a
acuden en esta
special
reunión
thanks
conectados
for
desde
everybody
diferentes
that is here
latitudes
in this
en el
meeting from the
planeta.
different
Es para el
latitudes of the
OIRSA
planet.
realmente motivo de una alegría enorme ser parte de esta celebración, Raúl,
It's
y al
a
equipo de
honor for
Inocuidad
us to be
OIRSA y a
here.
todos los presentes, porque entendemos en su
We
justa
understand
dimensión la importancia que reviste
the
la inocuidad de los
importance that
alimentos.
we need
Por
to give
décadas,
to
nuestros
food
esquemas
safety.
productivos,
For
tanto agrícolas
decades,
como pecuarios y
our
pesqueros, hemos
systems,
estado
our food systems,
inmersos
our
en el
fishing systems,
compromiso, en
we
asumir
have
el
been
compromiso de producir alimentos.
we are
El
trying
concepto que
to
privó por
commit
décadas
to the food
ha sido
production,
garantizar
taking into
la
consideration, of
disponibilidad de
course,
alimentos,
the
la seguridad y
availability
la
of food,
soberanía alimentaria
the
y producir alimentos de
food
calidad.
safety
Sin
and
embargo,
sovereignty
hace
and
algunas
produce
décadas atrás diríamos,
quality products.
emergió el concepto de la
But
inocuidad de los alimentos y ya no
we've
se
seen
concibe una producción
food
como sana
safety
si
as
no
a
se cumple con los
concept
estándares
that was brought
internacionales
a couple
y
of years
nacionales
ago,
de
and we need to
inocuidad de los
be
alimentos. Ya no basta con
aware of the
producir, tenemos que
international
producir
food
alimentos de
industry
calidad e inocuos que
requirements.
no
It's
pongan en
important to
riesgo la
produce, of
salud y la
course, but it's
población
also
en
very
todos
important to
nuestros países.
produce
La región del
with
OIRSA ha
safety.
sido sacudida, por
So for
llamarlo de
us,
alguna manera, por algunos eventos
OIRSA,
que tienen relación
this
con
region
enfermedades
has been
transmitidas
affected
por alimentos. Es
by
importante
different
mencionar
diseases,
lo que
foodborne
nos ha ocurrido en
diseases.
el pasado reciente
In the past, in the
para
recent
estar
past,
preparados a lo que puede venir en el futuro. Recuerdo muy bien
we need to
cuando
be prepared
tuvimos
for
el
the unforeseen.
evento
I remember
eh,
when we had
realmente
a
desagradable
very
en
serious
términos de
event
homicida en Guatemala, donde se
in Guatemala.
supuso que teníamos presencia de ciclospora
We
cayetanensis,
were
lo recuerdo muy
thinking on
bien, nuestro
Cyclospora
equipo fue negativo
candidatanesis. That was
en
a
la
very
producción y
serious
exportación de berries en Guatemala.
vector
En los años
that affected
subsiguientes también fuimos
Guatemala.
impactados
In the
por el evento
following
de
years, we were
salmonela,
affected by
supuesta salmonela en
salmonella
melón producido en Honduras,
in a
otro país amigo
watermelon
del OIRSA,
that was
con su
produced in
consecuente impacto
Honduras
negativo en
with
producción
a
y
very negative
exportación de estos productos y
impact
subproductos
for the
de países. Y
production and
así
the import
hemos sido
and
impactados
export
por
of
diferentes
these products.
eventos
And
negativos, diríamos
examples like
nosotros,
this, I
en los
may
esquemas de
call a
producción
few
y en la
in
penetración
different
de
moments
libre
that we have been
mercado
affected
en los mercados
by the free
internacionales
market
a
and
lo
the
que es nuestra
penetration to
producción
international markets where
destinada
our produce
desde la región del OIRSA. En ese
aimed
sentido,
is
es
aiming,
sumamente
right? So
importante
in this
fortalecer
sense,
nuestros
it's very
esquemas de
important to
aseguramiento de la
strengthen
inocuidad de los
our
alimentos, trabajar
systems to
duramente con el
follow
sector
up the
productivo
food
privado,
safety,
con pequeños,
work with
medianos y
the
grandes productores,
private sector
en la
and the public
implementación
sector
y
with
fortalecimiento de
all
esquemas
sizes of
de buenas
producers
prácticas agrícolas,
to have
de
good
buenas prácticas
agricultural practices, good manufacturing practices, and systems that may help us to analyze the risks at the production zone. So, the International Regional Organization for Plant and Animal Health, or IRSA, is getting prepared to support Mexico, Panama, Costa Rica, and Dominican Republic so we can be side to side to make sure that the food is safe. We cannot understand we have production systems where the produce is not considered safe or that can affect people, causing diseases that are related to a misunderstanding of the way we need to produce our food. So we're really happy to be here celebrating the World Food Safety Day. And here in San Salvador, we say hi to you and we welcome you and we expect you to leave this meeting with more awareness of what we need to do for our agriculture systems and food safety concerns. Thank you for being here.
Esta importante
We are
celebración,
really happy
Raúl
to
y
be
compañeros,
here, and Raul
donde
and everybody.
celebramos, como lo dije hace un momento,
We are really
con
happy
mucha
to be here,
alegría el Día Mundial de la Inocuidad de los Alimentos.
and
Reiteramos el compromiso
we
de OIRSA
will celebrate.
en
We're
apoyar el
committed
sistema de
at
inocuidad de los
OIRSA
alimentos firmemente para continuar
to
avanzando en
support
la
the
producción baja
initiatives
y
on food
ambiental.
safety
Saludos a todos.
and just
Gracias, ingeniero.
welcome
Eso
again.
nos obliga
Thank you.
más con nuestro trabajo
Thank you.
en la
We are really
agenda que
happy to have you here, and we
llevamos
definitely feel
a
the
Larry
commitment,
Rivera, director
right?
ejecutivo de Agrocalidad,
So, yeah,
para finalizar con esta sección.
let
Debo
me
de las
invite
palabras
Raul
de
Larry
Larry
Rivera,
Rivera,
and
como
after
parte
Larry Rivera, we
oficial
will have a
de la
official video
conmemoración del Día Mundial
of
de
the
la Inocuidad para
celebration
este
of
año.
the World Food Safety Day, okay, for this year.
Muchísimas gracias a
Thank
todos.
you. Thank
Un
you,
cariñoso
everyone.
saludo para Otorrino, Cosivi, José,
Hi,
Pilar,
Otorrino,
Víctor,
Jose,
Rommel, Dani,
Mario,
Josué,
Raúl, Victor,
Andrés,
everyone, Nicole,
Natalia,
Andres,
Karin, a todos los
Natalia,
presentes
everyone
como panelistas
in
y
this call
también a los
as
intérpretes y por
panelists.
supuesto a quienes
Thanks
nos
to
siguen del
everybody
otro lado de
who's
las
in the
redes sociales.
backstage of this event,
Un cariñoso saludo
and
desde
thanks
la mitad del
for
mundo.
people watching us on the
Y es así
social
como
media
este 7 de junio
platforms.
pues conmemoramos la
Well,
sexta
June the
edición del
7th,
Día
and
Mundial de
we
la
are here
Inocuidad de
to
los
celebrate
Alimentos.
the World
Una
Food
fecha muy
Safety Day,
importante
a very
porque
important day
a través
for
del
everyone
llamado de todos
because
los
it's a
organismos
call to action.
internacionales, hacemos una vez más,
We
tenemos una vez más la posibilidad de
have
llamar la atención de todas las cadenas
once again
productivas,
the
de
chance
los
to
sectores públicos y también los
draw the attention of
privados
the
para iniciar
production
acciones que nos
chains and
ayuden
the
a
supply chain
prevenir
from
y
food and
gestionar los riesgos transmitidos por
everybody
los
who's
alimentos
empowered to
sobre
help
la
us to
base de una
reduce
sólida
problems caused by
inocuidad
food
alimentaria. Este
and
año nos
work on the
convoca
pillars
el
of our
tema
food
de
safety
preparemos para
strategies,
los
and we
riesgos.
gotta be
Esto
prepared
es
for the
importantísimo porque
unexpected,
la prevención
as the motto
fortalece los
says,
sistemas de inocuidad de
and
cada uno de los
prevention
países.
has
Cada
everything
vez
to do
se
with
hace
food
más
safety.
fuerte el ruido de los
I
eventos
believe
relacionados con
it's
inocuidad
really
alimentaria,
interesting to notice
aunque
how
unos
this
minutos
buzzword that we have
justamente
here, which
Raúl
is the
hacía
food
mención a
safety,
algunos de
right?
ellos, nosotros también como país
Raul
hemos
was
pasado
mentioning
por
some of
momentos
the
duros
hard
relacionados con
times
la
that we
inocuidad
have had
alimentaria.
here in the region
Venimos de una
due to
crisis a nivel regional donde se
these
están
initiatives or
experimentando
these
cortes de energía,
problems.
los
We
alimentos
have
pierden su
seen
calidad de
power
frío, algunos
shortage,
eventos de intoxicación
the
alimentaria
cold
en
chain
restaurantes,
has been
retiro
affected
voluntario
for
de
some food.
alimentos
You see some
contaminados por parte de
volunteer
diferentes fabricantes,
withdrawal from
brotes
food
originados
that
de productos
you know,
importados o también a través de los
outbursts in
diferentes
different
desastres naturales que han sido provocados
regions because of the natural
por el cambio
disasters
climático.
caused by the climate
Todas estas
change.
acciones nos hacen reflexionar y entender que los peligros para la inocuidad
So yeah,
alimentaria no tienen fronteras.
outbreaks are
Año
really
a año
serious
venimos
and they
fortaleciendo los
recognize
esfuerzos de
no
mitigación en nuestro país también
barriers or
a través de
frontiers.
diferentes iniciativas como son las buenas prácticas
We
agropecuarias,
have
la
some
aplicación del
interesting
Plan Nacional de Vigilancia y Control de Contaminantes,
initiatives. We have a plan
prevención
to
de la resistencia a
investigate contaminants and
antimicrobianas,
vectors. We have
programas de
also
atención específicos también para
other
productos
specific
como
programs
leche, como centros
for
de faenamiento
dairy,
y
for
así
confinement centers,
también enfocarnos en
and
cada uno de los
yeah,
productos
we're focusing
de la canasta
on
básica
every
ecuatoriana.
single product
Todos estos esfuerzos
that we have
definitivamente deben ser
in our
acordados
country,
y
the
financiados
basic
por los actores
basket or the
locales,
basic food basket,
pero también
right?
debemos asumir un
we know that everyone has a role to play, but we as consumers have a big role that we got to perform. We need to remember the huge effort that we have in the five key elements of food safety. We need to be really aware of the most vulnerable population, and we as an agency, we are renewing our commitment so we can work with the different risks and threats that we can have involved here. So I'm here to celebrate, and I recognize how important are these meetings, and we definitely want to protect our people. Thank you. Wish you a successful event, and let's work together for food safety. Thank you.
Greetings from Rome.
And hello from Geneva, everyone. Every year, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, or FAO, and the World Health Organization, or WHO, jointly lead the celebration of the World Food Safety Day.
Because we cannot have food security without food safety.
And because globally, 1 in 10 people are affected by foodborne disease every year.
On World Food Safety Day, we remember that food safety is everyone's business.
And that by working together, we ensure our food is safe to eat.
But in exceptional situations, even if we have all played our part, the unexpected can happen.
Unexpected food safety events can range from minor events to major crises. But even then, there's always something that can be done to keep food safe.
Governments and industry must have plans in place in case of an unexpected event and ensure that no time is wasted in implementing the necessary actions.
The rapid exchange of information, effective communication, food safety management plans, and decisive action by food operators all help save lives.
Anticipating the kind of events that might occur, whether it be a natural disaster like flooding, or a volcanic eruption, or a power outage, can ensure the risk to food safety is minimized.
And at home, consumers' food safety knowledge can avert problems in unexpected situations.
This World Food Safety Day, we will raise awareness about what you, no matter what your role, can do to be ready for the unexpected.
Please get ready and join us on the 7th of June.
Bienvenidos a todos
Okay,
nuevamente.
welcome
Gracias
again.
por su presencia el
Thank
día
you
de
for
hoy.
watching the video and
Vamos a
thank you for
iniciar
being
con las
here.
charlas y
So
para
let's
nuestra
start
primera
our
charla quiero
lectures. For the
presentar al
first
doctor Víctor
talk,
Eduardo Rivera,
let me introduce
quien
Victor
nos va a
Rivera,
presentar el tema
and he
Mejoramiento de
will
los
talk
sistemas
about the
nacionales de
strengthening
control de
of national
alimentos.
food
Víctor
control
Rivera es
systems.
médico veterinario
He
de la
is
Universidad de
a
Chile. Tiene una
veterinarian
extensa
doctor
educación en
from
sistemas
Universidad de
HACCP
Chile, and
en el
he
Instituto de
understands
Instrucción y
very well how to
Tecnología de los
install
Alimentos
HACCP,
de la Universidad de
and
Chile.
he
También es
got a
instructor
diploma
de la norma
on
y
this
controles operativos
technology,
de
and
alimentos de
he is the
consumo
instructor,
humano
he's the
PCUI y
coordinator of the
entrenador líder
PCUI
de la norma
initiative
de
and one of the
inocuidad de
leader
productos frescos
trainers
PCA de la
on
ley
the
FISMA de Estados
PCA,
Unidos
the
y
FISMA
actualmente se
law in the
desempeña
United
como
States, and today
coordinador del área
is
de
the
asuntos
coordinator
internacionales y
of
regulatorios
international
de
and
la Agencia
regulatory
Chilena para la
affairs
Calidad
area
de
for
la
the
Inocuidad
Chilean
de los
Agency for
Alimentos
Food
ACHIPIA.
Safety
Bienvenido,
and
Víctor.
Quality, also known as
Muchas
ACHIPIA.
gracias por la introducción, Lorena.
Yeah, thank you,
Bueno,
Lorena.
voy a
I'm really
compartir
happy to be here.
pantalla
Let me share my screen.
con la presentación. Me avisan si todo ok.
Uh,
Ahí
Please
está.
let me know if you
Ir a la
are
pantalla.
seeing my presentation. Okay. Yes.
Muchas
Good.
gracias. Bueno,
Thank you.
un saludo a todos y
Okay.
a todas los que nos están escuchando a través de este seminario. Muchas gracias a FAO por la invitación. Bueno, a todos los colaboradores,
Okay.
OPS,
So thank you for being
a
here. I'm really
todos los que
happy
están haciendo
to be
posible este
with
evento.
you, people from
Siempre es bueno
PAHO,
juntarnos, siempre es
WHO,
bueno discutir
VPH,
estos temas,
Panaftosa. It's so
siempre es bueno
good
compartir
to
experiencias,
be
ya que
here
la inocuidad
together
es
and
un desafío que
sharing
nos llama
the
a todos
different,
desde el organismo de
initiatives,
control
and
de
we
alimentos,
are
desde
here
los
for the
mismos
same purpose.
colaboradores de los estados, como en nuestro caso en Achipia,
In
y a
Achipia,
todos, la industria, los
we
consumidores, la
understand that we
organización
need to
internacional.
involve
Siempre tenemos
everyone:
que estar unidos, compartir
consumers,
experiencia y mejorar el
governments,
desempeño de nuestros
agencies,
sistemas
private
y de
sector,
ojalá
and
que nos
improve
convoca
the performance
en
of
este
our
día de hoy
systems,
estar
and that's
preparados
why
para lo
we're here.
inesperado. Siempre en inocuidad el
In
desafío es
food
ser más
safety
eficientes, ser más
has
productivos, estar
a special
preparados para lo
challenge.
inesperado y
the
para poder
challenge is
enfrentar
to
el desarrollo de la
be
crisis.
ready and
Esto lo que les
be
voy a
prepared
presentar
for
es
the
un proyecto
unexpected.
particular que nos
This is a
ayuda
particular
en este
project
tema
that we have
de
here that
desempeño,
help us to understand how to improve
precisamente
our food safety
crear mecanismos de
mechanisms.
evaluación o
We
instrumentos de
want to
evaluación
generate
para evaluar cómo lo
different
estamos haciendo, cómo
systems
está
so we can
desempeñándose
measure if we are
nuestro
doing
sistema
a
de
good
control de
job or
alimentos.
not when
Y
it
para
comes to
eso
controlling
la
our safety
colaboración
here.
estrecha con
And
FAO
that's why
para implementar este instrumento que ha puesto en marcha FAO y OMS en
we have
conjunto,
here a
¿sí? El
FAO
cual
and
permite
OMS,
precisamente eso,
and
evaluar el sistema de control de alimentos
it
y
allows
tener una
us
herramienta
to
que también nosotros podamos ocupar en el tiempo
consider
para ir
the
viendo
system
cómo
so
va
we can
mejorando el desempeño
improve
y generar una estrategia, un plan de trabajo
and a
concreto que nos
strategy
permita ir
and a
desarrollando
service plan
o resolviendo brechas o ir
that can help us
implementando
to
nuevos
bridge
desarrollos,
the
nuevos
gap
desafíos
and
que
implement
ustedes
new
generan
possibilities
cuando
for the challenges that we have
trabajan.
available.
Decirles que Chile, ¿por qué decide hacer esto? En consideración de que Chile en general tiene
In
una
Chile, in
fama
general, we have
o somos conocidos por tener un robusto sistema de control de alimentos,
a
tanto en el ámbito
well-known
institucional como
system.
en la estrategia que Chile
We have a
siguió cuando
robust
piensa
system that
la exportación
we
de alimentos.
implemented in the 90s
Eh,
because we
Tenemos
are food
tratado de libre comercio con
exporters.
muchos países
We
para
have
hacer
free trade
mucha exportación de
agreements,
alimentos y para eso también tenemos instituciones encargadas de eso.
and we have
¿Por
serious
qué Chile,
institutions that are
también siendo un país de ingresos altos, decide hacer y decide implementar este
working with
instrumento
us,
base?
and
Y
we
eso es lo que
are
voy a también
a
presentar
high
durante la presentación.
demand country, and I'm going
Bueno,
to show you
además está decir la
how we
cooperación
deal
que
with
hemos
it.
tenido
Well, the
con
cooperation
FAO,
that
con
we've had
OMS
with
y con otros
PAHO,
organismos
with
que
the
se facilita.
WHO, and some other
FAO en
organizations like
particular es un referente
ICA.
en inocuidad alimentaria,
And
¿sí?
FAO, of
Es
course,
uno
is the reference when it
de
comes
los
to
gestores del Códex
the
Alimentario
food safety,
popularmente
is one
así.
of the
¿Sí?
creators of
Es
the
nuestro gran
Codex
organismo, cuerpo de
Alimentarius, and
referencia,
we
donde
know
participan todos los Estados
that when
miembros.
we have
¿Sí? Tenemos
questions or
mucha
something, we
trayectoria
need to
también de
understand
cooperación
what the
con
FAO
FAO,
is
con el
saying.
Ministerio de Agricultura en particular. Mi agencia
And
pertenece al Ministerio de Agricultura.
our agency is part of the Ministry of Agriculture,
Bueno, y también ha ido
and
incorporando pioneramente conceptos como el de una salud
we
hoy
have
día más
concepts like
amplia,
One
que nos invita
Health,
a estar
which is a
más
very important
coordinados,
concept
a
that
no ver las
invite us
áreas
to be
bajo
more coordinated and not seeing
como una
problems
cosa
like
compartimentalizada, ¿sí?
something that is
Aislada,
highly
sino que el sistema de salud ya
compartmentalized,
tiene que conversar con otros sistemas
isolated.
como el medio
No,
ambiente,
we
la
need to
salud
talk
animal,
to
es necesario y para eso tenemos que ver
environmental
cómo podemos hacerlo en la práctica
initiatives,
y para eso
animal
también FAO ha
health.
sido
We
un
need
gran
to develop
colaborador
new
y ha
practices,
desarrollado este instrumento que voy a
and
comentar,
yeah,
que es parte de
in
lo que hoy día nos
in
tiene
this
aquí.
sense, we developed a
Y
tool that
también
I'm
se han
gonna
puesto
share with
prioridades de
you today.
FAO
And
en
we have some
Chile,
priorities
en el ámbito de
in
cuatro áreas
Chile
prioritarias para este periodo
coming from
24-26,
FAO, four
la mejor
major
nutrición, mejor producción,
areas: better
mejor
nutrition,
ambiente
better
y mejor
production, better
vida. Y por
environment,
supuesto, el factor de
and better
inocuidad como
life.
un
And of
factor
course, food safety is
clave,
one of the main
basal
concepts
de la
here.
producción de alimentos, viene a
It's a
cooperar
base concept, and it's
en
here
estos ámbitos. Y por lo
um,
tanto estamos ocupados
contributing with
en eso.
everything, with all the
Y
other
bueno,
core
la inocuidad
topics.
nos presenta un gran desafío y por qué tenemos que estar preparados también, porque
So yeah,
lógicamente
food
el
safety
principal
is a big
foco
challenge, and we need to
y
be
lo que
prepared for
estamos
it.
atendiendo acá
The
es la
main
salud y
focus that
bienestar
we
de las
have here
personas. ¿Sí? No puede haber producción de
is of
alimentos,
course
tal
working
como lo
on
dijo
the
FAO
people's
también
health and the well-being of
de
people.
alto nivel, ¿cierto? No puede
In the
haber
high
producción de
level
alimentos
meeting,
y no puede haber seguridad de
we
alimentos si no
remember
hay
that
alimentos. ¿Sí?
we
Va
got the
enfocado en
dilemma
proteger la salud y
that there
bienestar de
is
las
no
personas.
way of having
Pero por supuesto,
safety
es
if we do
un
not have
complejo y
food
dinámico
safety
porque
first.
también
But
la
it's a
parte de
very
la calidad de vida y el
complex
bienestar de las
balance
naciones
because
también
part
es el
of
desarrollo
the
económico y el desarrollo
well-being
competitivo
of
de
the
quienes controlan, en este
nations
caso, el
has to
alimentos.
do with being
Por lo tanto,
competitive in
tenemos que
the food
generar ese equilibrio.
industry
¿Sí?
too. So
Podríamos
we
poner
need to be,
los estándares más
you know,
altos de
it's a
inocuidad
seesaw.
en
Like
los
we need to
países
do it at the
que
same
uno
time,
sea
working on
quiere
both
alcanzar como ningún
things,
beneficio, por
and
lo tanto no vamos a tener desarrollo de alimentos, desarrollo de la industria y
we
por lo
need to
tanto
develop food
generar seguridad
and be
alimentaria
competitive, and at the
y
same
generar
time,
desarrollo
we need to
económico también.
produce
Y por lo tanto es
considering
un
food
equilibrio
safety
complejo y dinámico.
as the main
El sistema de
issue. It's a
control de
very
alimentos en
complicated
Chile
thing.
es un
Our
código
system, our food
de régimen
control
de
system in
restricción
Chile
sectorial, es decir, participan
is a
distintos actores
multi-stakeholder
para ese control,
system.
¿sí? Y
Many
está
players
en el ámbito de la
are
producción nacional,
here
todo lo que se
to
consume
control
internamente en Chile y lo que se importa de otros
what we
países.
do in Chile,
El
what we
responsable jefe
consume
de esta es
internally, and
a
what
través
we
de sus
export to
secretarías
other
regionales en
countries.
las 16 regiones que tiene
And
Chile.
we have
Cada región
16
tiene su
regions in
autoridad
Chile,
sanitaria,
and
la
each of
Seremi de
them
Salud,
they
y el
have
Ministerio de Salud actúa
their
como
own
órgano
agency
gestor
for
guías
for
que
the
establece la normativa.
monitoring and
La
following
CEREMI
the
finalmente la aprueba.
initiatives, and we have the ministry that is
Y se
determining
encarga, bueno,
the
obviamente de salud
strategies.
pública,
And
de todos
yeah,
los habitantes
we
del
have
país
here
y por ende también
the
de
public
los alimentos a
health
través de nuestro reglamento
being one
sanitario
of the
del país
main pillars of
y
our
cuerpo normativo.
initiatives,
Pero
and that's
también
what
para el
our
ámbito de la
agency does.
exportación participan
For
otros ministerios,
exports,
en este
we
caso
have
el
other
Viceministerio
ministries
Agrario, que
involved.
pertenece al Ministerio de
We have
Agricultura
the
y cumple requisitos
Ministry
de
of
mercados de
Agriculture
terceros países,
that is following the resources
sobre
or
todo
the
fitosanitarios, pero
requirements better
también todos
of
los
other
productos
countries,
que han ido surgiendo de aptitud para el consumo humano
and
y
everything that
consumo
has
en
to
el
do
país.
with
En el
consumption, with
ámbito de
food
la producción
consumption
primaria
by
de
humans
agropecuaria, ¿sí?
is
Agrícola y pecuaria,
something that the Ministry of
este
Agriculture
organismo
and
se encarga
Livestock Matters
ver
is responsible
la
for
manera de
that.
cumplir con esos requisitos y por ende también establece normativas,
And
programas,
they establish some
parámetros
guidelines,
y funciones
programs, and
para poder exportar
standards so they can deal
nuestros
with
productos. Lo mismo
these
hace el Pesca,
requirements. The
perdón,
same
Secretaría de
thing with
Agricultura en el
Serna
ámbito
Pesca, which is the
de
Ministry
los productos
of
hidrobiológicos, de los productos
Economy.
del mar y
It's under
acuícolas
the Ministry of
y
Economy and is responsible
exportan
for all
y
the
esta
fishing
pertenece al
activities of the
Ministerio de Agricultura.
country. And this is
Participan
part,
también
as I said,
dentro de este
of the
marco, por
Ministry
supuesto, el
of
Ministerio de
Economy.
Relaciones Exteriores para
We
todo lo que
have
tiene que
also
ver con
the
aperturas
agency for
comerciales, la mantención de los
foreign
supermercados
relations,
y el Servicio Nacional de
opening new
Aduanas
markets
también
for
en todo
Chilean products,
el intercambio comercial que
and the
hay a
customs
través de nuestras
agency
fronteras.
because
Y por
everything,
lo
of
tanto,
course, has to
participan muchos
left the
actores
country using our borders.
y esto puede generar una complejidad.
We have many
También
actors, as you can
atendiendo que
see. We have
no
many
solamente a
players,
través de estos
and that
actores,
may
sino que también
generate more
junto
complexity.
de los
And
garantes en el
these
Estado de Chile,
sectors, of course, are really
hay
important
sin
for
nombre de
making
otros
things
actores que
work
también son
properly, but we
importantes
have
en
some other
gestionar
people
esto
who
de una mirada
must be
sistémica.
considered in a
Por supuesto,
systemic
los productores de alimentos,
approach.
la
The
academia,
food producers, the
los
universities,
laboratorios de
the
análisis,
labs,
incluso los
different
consumidores, porque
analysis labs, and
también
the
hacemos nuestra
consumers.
propia gestión, todos como
We
consumidores
have
hacemos nuestra propia gestión de nuestros
our
riesgos
own
alimentarios y
risk
nutricionales
management
también
as
por ser
consumers,
parte importante del sistema.
and consumers are part
Por
of
eso
the
es que
system,
Chile en
definitely.
algún momento mira esta complejidad,
That's why Chile is focusing on
esta
this
tarea,
complexity,
¿sí? Que
is
tiene que ser
seeing
coordinada, que tiene que ser
this
mirada de manera sistémica y
coordination, is
establece una
seeing this
alianza
activity, and
por
is definitely
debería
working on
institución
this agenda
interpresidencial
that is a
que tiene
presidential
como principal rol
agency
ayudar a
that
la
has its
coordinación
main
de este
role
sistema.
to help
¿Sí?
to
Y esta se
coordinate this
crea, esta
system as a
agencia hoy
whole.
día en
And that's
dependencia
why we have
totalmente
this
de la
agency
agricultura, pero que
here
tiene un mandato
that
más
is, of
allá
course, depending on the
de lo
Ministry of
sectorial que tiene
Agriculture,
agricultura,
but
sino que
we
tiene
are
un
not
mandato de
limited to it.
coordinación de los sistemas,
Our mandate
de este
has to
sistema
do
de control de
with the
alimentos y por ende el
coordination of
sistema
all the systems that
mayor
I'm just mentioning
que es este que
and
estaríamos acá,
trying
¿sí?
to,
Donde te
you know,
decía,
organize this
por este lado,
mosaic
los
of
organismos de
different
control,
agencies that we
que
have.
veíamos en la diapositiva
And
anterior,
this
por el
slide
Estado,
may
pero también
show you
otros
how we
organismos del
work.
Estado que interactúan
We
con los
have the
productores, por ejemplo, el
ministries
sistema
and
de
the
fomento
agencies I mentioned
productivo que da
before,
financiamiento,
but we have
asistencia
also
técnica
the
a los
agency
productores
for the production
y la
incentives,
investigación y el desarrollo
and it's
también,
helping the
que es un
producers.
organismo del Estado que
And we
apoya
have also research
financiamiento y
institutes,
investigación, por ejemplo.
development
Y todo
banks,
eso
and
también
some
es
other
importante que
initiatives.
estemos
Everything
coordinados como Estado.
must be
Pero es
coordinated
importante desde
as
el
a
Estado
whole.
también fomentar coordinación con
But
otros actores del
we need to
sistema, como son
consider
los
that we have
consumidores,
some
los
other
organismos
players like
internacionales que nos
consumers,
apoyan en esta
international
tarea, y
organisms that
de eso
help us
estamos
with
hablando hoy
this
día, ¿no es cierto?
task,
Todo el
and
apoyo
that's
que
why
tenemos
we
de
are
FAO,
here
UNICEF,
in
el
the end of the
ICA
day
y
because we
otros
have the support
de
from
otros
ICA,
países, ¿no es cierto? Que también no son organismos
FAO,
multilaterales, sino que son agencias de otros
WHO,
países con las que
and
también
some other
tenemos
countries where we have
relación
collateral,
y
you know,
cooperación. La comunidad
collateral
científica, las
agreements and
universidades, los centros de formación técnica,
the yeah
investigación y
technical
explotación de Chile,
centers, the
por supuesto los productores
study
primarios también, ¿no es cierto?
centers, the
Los agricultores,
research
los ganaderos, los
institutes,
pescadores, los acuicultores, uno de los
the
principales
livestock
involucrados en esta cadena productiva
community, the
que generan un mayor tema
producers,
y toda la agroindustria, transformadores, distribuidores, etcétera. Todo eso
everybody in
hemos
the
visto
industry,
el mundo de los laboratorios también muy importante. Todo eso
aquaculturists, everyone.
hemos
And
denominado, ¿no es
we
cierto?,
have
nuestra
identified
tarea.
all of
Nuestra
those
pretensión, ¿no es
actors,
cierto?,
and
poder
we
formalizar un sistema
understand
nacional de inocuidad y
that we need
alimentaria
to
que
create
fije
this
los
system,
roles, que
this
fije las
national
formas de
system of food
interrelación
safety
y de
and
coordinación.
food quality that
Y
may
la
set the
agencia
rules, the
precisamente se
ground
creó para
rules
poder
for everyone. So
ayudar
the agency is just
a
to
este
help
sistema
people
a
to
coordinarse.
understand how the
Una
system
cosa muy
works and
importante para
coordinate the
nosotros
system the best
que
way we
también hemos
could.
ido
Another
desarrollando,
important
que
thing
muchos
that we
países de la
need to
región
develop
tienen
more
este
in our
cauce
region, some other countries,
y
they
nosotros
have good
como Ministerio de
practices in this,
colaborar, ¿no es cierto?
and I
Porque
believe we
hemos
are
hecho nuestra
always
propia experiencia,
eager
ir
to
implementando
cooperate
procesos
because we
de
want
análisis de
to
riesgo.
celebrate
Sabemos que
different partnerships with a tool for risk analysis so we can deal with the food safety initiatives and develop more strategies when it comes to communication, surveillance, and this has a central area, like a core, which is creating data, research, having scientific data, scientific bases that allow us to make the best decisions, and we work with that in mind. We know that the codex is helping us to set the rules and do some assessments and understand how can we move forward with other countries in an independent way. And some countries have not agencies like measuring risks or analyzing risks, but they can use this codex so they can understand their situation. We have rules coming directly from the codex, but we are generating our own tools and our own management tools for risks, and the agency is getting busy, let's say, generating these standards. There's a cooperation with FAO, and I think that's a very important one because the mandate that we have from the president's office, we are a agency depending on from the president's office, and we are advisors to the president of this country and his ministers. So we can have a coordinated activity. One of the main tasks we have is to create a national policy for food safety. We have two versions of this policy and we're updating it now. And we need to be the coordinators of this policy so we can apply it. I think this policy is, of course, part of what the food control systems do, but it's also part of the government, so other actors or other players in the system can be also engaged in the national policy. Of course, we see FAO as a cooperator, as a reference, as a guide, so we can develop even more these actions. I think ICA is also an agency that is helping us really, really importantly. The decree of our cooperation agreement says that we must be the instance of coordination for policy making, and we need to deliver, create and deliver a report to the president. In this specific point, I feel we can analyze now that we have a very important tool for food control. You can see here the link for those of you who don't know the control system assessment tools. And it's a very good thing because it's helping us to understand if we're doing a good job or not. If you have a system and it's not highly developed, this is a good inspiration, but we feel that we have a good system, and even so, we believe that we have things to learn here from these important tools. Okay? I think you have a certain level of understanding of the food safety initiatives, but it's so important to be aware of the other elements that we have to keep into consideration when you are developing a system like this and move forward to an ideal situation where you can be ready to analyze all the food products of your country. This instrument is a very important one because it follows the national guidelines from for food control that is based on the codex, and we have these guidelines to control our food here and to ensure that we have fair practices in the industry. And this series of principles are really important, and we can make use of them and see if we're actually following what it says here. And yeah, we have
imparcial,
food production, we have
que genere la cooperación y
partial,
coordinación entre las múltiples autoridades,
or we have
reconocimiento
multilateral
de
cooperation.
otros sistemas
We have
de
some
otros
other
países,
systems that
enfoque
are
integral
here
de la cadena alimentaria, así, una
for
serie de
the food
principios, ¿no es cierto?, que
industry,
recoge
some
esta ley que están
principles.
recogidos en este instrumento que nos parece
And
importante,
this tool
un
is so
instrumento que va
important
a
because of
ordenar
that,
estos,
because it will
estos principios
organize all of
en
these principles
en un
and
sinnúmero
turn them into
de
a
indicadores que,
series of indicators that can
de
be
puntos que tenemos que ir revisando para ver cómo
good.
estamos
So,
actuando.
are like a
¿Sí?
checklist to see how
Y
you're doing.
precisamente se enmarca
And
esta
of
herramienta dentro
course, we
de
have
una
this tool
infracción que nos
here
dice el Códex que
as a
es
way
bueno
of
para los sistemas de control de alimentos
understanding
identificarlo y
what
examinarlo
else can we do
a
when it
través
comes to
de este
controlling
sistema. Y es nuestro mandato
our
también,
food
como
or
decíamos.
improving the system
¿Sí?
or
Para eso
our
nosotros
agency,
generamos
of
un
course.
convenio, ¿sí?
So that's
Estamos
why we have
en la
this
Corte de generar
agreement.
ese convenio para
We are renewing the agreement,
poder seguir implementando este
and
sistema.
we feel that we will keep going with this
La lógica
initiative.
de este
The
instrumento de
rationale
acceso
behind
seguro de
this
alimentos
instrument
va en
is
cuatro
a very
dimensiones.
good one. It's
Los,
set in four
los recursos que ha
dimensions.
puesto el país, ¿cierto? No
We
solo
see
militares, sino que de
if the
institucionalidad,
resources, and I'm not
profesional,
talking only about money, I'm
de
talking about,
infraestructura, de capacidad analítica, de recursos
capacity,
y la aportación de sistemas
professionals,
son
people
suficientes,
are
nos
sufficient
permiten hacer lo que
for
los
this,
objetivos que
are
hemos trazado,
what it
¿cierto? Y una
takes
dimensión B
to
de
do
cómo
what we need to do.
efectivamente operan
That's
y
the
funcionan estos
A
controles,
dimension.
¿sí?
We
Y en
have the
adición va a
B
haber todo el tema
dimension, which
estimativo,
is
todo el tema de
how these
proceso, de infraestructura,
controls
de capacidad
work in the
operacional,
end of the day, like
y
the
luego en
operational
la dimensión B va a ver
capacity,
efectivamente cómo operan estos
everything.
controles,
I need to check if the
pero
controls are
también muy
working or
importante
not.
que tiene una
And it's
dimensión
very
C
important to say that we have another dimension, which is the
viene a
dimension
ver
C,
cómo interactúan con el
and
sistema todas
understand
las
how
partes
we have
interesadas, no
or
solo
how
los organismos de
the
control, sino
stakeholders are
todos los otros
interacting
componentes de un sistema
between each
de
other,
seguridad y calidad
how
alimentaria.
we
Y
see
cómo
this
también en la
interaction between the
dimensión
different
D
players. And the
el sistema
dimension
facilita una mejora
D
continua, cómo vamos
is to
revisando,
ask
cómo vamos
yourself if
mejorando
the
continuamente,
system is
si
enhancing
tenemos
the
estructuras,
continuous improvement
instrumentos
that we need to do.
que
If we have the
nos ayuden en
tools
esa mejora continua.
required for
Y
this
bueno, es muy importante,
for improving the system
como
in the end of the
decía, que
day.
está basado en
It's
los
very important to
controles
say
para
that
poder
it's based
revisar,
on the
pero
controls that are
también en los
performed by the
con temas
authorities, but
no
it's
normativos,
also
que es muy importante porque
based on the
no se
non-normative
agotan todos los
approaches,
esfuerzos en la
because
capacidad que pueden tener los sistemas de
all
control,
the
sino
efforts that
también
we may
en
have
los
in the
enfoques
control
normativos
systems
de
are
capacitación, de comunicación,
considered, and
de
not only from
coordinación.
the technical perspective but also from
Y
the
está
communications
estructurado la
perspective
herramienta que estamos
and the control
analizando
systems. And this is the tool
en estos
itself. You can see here
dimensiones,
how
cada
we
uno con
populate the
sus
fields, the four
subdimensiones, con las
dimensions, with some
competencias que se revisan en ellos.
sub-dimensions and the
Hoy día
competencies that are
tenemos a todo
required
nuestro
at
organismo de
each of
control
them.
competente
We
trabajando en
have all
esto.
the agencies working on this
Hace un
system,
gran esfuerzo porque está
and yeah,
plasmado
it's a big effort
a
because
su labor habitual que tienen que hacer cada uno
they
en
have to do some
centros de
other
servicio
things, right? So
técnico.
they need to follow
Este enorme
a
esfuerzo
list
se ha hecho
of tasks, but
y no
even so,
solamente
they
con los
have been able to
profesionales que
put
hemos
some
designado
additional
como
effort,
contraparte, sino que también tienen que ir
and
al departamento
they can,
de finanzas, al departamento de
go to the
capacitación,
finance
al
system, they
departamento
can go
de
to the
asuntos institucionales,
training
para ir
system,
viendo cómo
and
en Chile tenemos hoy día implementado todo
in
esto o ya
Chile,
tenemos uno de los puntos implementados.
we have some
Cabe
topics that
destacar
have been
también, y eso
implemented, and
es
some
muy
other that
relevante
we
para
need to
el país y
work
lo he destacado
a little bit more.
cuando hemos hecho,
When
cuando
we
hemos
analyze what
hablado
we
con
are doing and
autoridades, con
when we
distintas personas
compare
sobre
what
la
other
importancia
people
de
are
implementar esta
doing in this
herramienta
sense and talking about the
y contar con los
importance
recursos para
of
ello,
implementing this tool and having the resources
de que
to
esta
do
herramienta
so,
nos solicita tener
we hear that
verificadores,
this tool
nos
requires
solicita tener
some verifying elements,
documentos,
right? Some
protocolos,
proofs,
guías de respaldo de lo
documents,
que estamos diciendo.
protocols,
O sea, para este
guidelines that
instrumento nada más
support
puede
what
decir
we are
como,
saying.
sí, en el país
This
efectivamente
instrument is
tenemos un
not saying,
sistema de
yeah, we
monitoreo
need to do this,
de
and
vigilancia
we
hacia
have a
enfermedades
system for,
de
I don't
patógenos
know, foodborne
microbiológicos
diseases monitoring
que se han
or
priorizado en el país a
pathogens that
través del sistema
we are
monitoreo.
focusing on.
No,
No,
también nos
it's
dicen
not a
dónde está el
declarative tool.
documento que lo avala,
We
dónde
need
está
to
el sistema de
attach
control,
the
dónde está el
documents, we need to
protocolo, algún
let
ejemplo, ¿cierto?
the
Y además
authorities know what
vamos a
are the
tener
examples, the
oportunidades de
instances that we have
validación de lo que
here,
vamos a
and we
decir.
may validate the
Tengo
system as
evaluadores
well.
de FAO que nos están apoyando en
The
esto,
FAO
que han sido muy comprometidos
validators, they
con el
are highly
proyecto,
committed with the
van a venir
project, and they
y
will
vamos a
come,
ir a mirar, vamos a ir a
and we
mirar cómo
will
efectivamente
go and see
aplicamos
how the systems are being applied, how things are being developed in the country. It's a very objective tool, and I feel it's the first time that we do something so comprehensive in the details, right? About food controls. And yeah, I feel in our country we have, so many regulations, so many protocols, and everything is like very obsolete at the end of the day, right? Some sub dimensions are really important too. You see here some important um, frameworks for human resources, for the resources, financial resources, everything that we have here, the routine control, surveillance, emergency response, interaction with the stakeholders, not only national but also international agencies that are interested in this, and we may generate some international partnerships that are good for this initiative so we can have more technical base to face the problems. And finally, the scientific base and continuous improvement. Of course, it has to do with databases and the information that we have in the country so we can get prepared and the improvement of keeping our initiatives always up to date, right? And in the work plan, I'm not getting into this, only just want to highlight that the tool, part of the tool, has to do with the communication, my communication with the authorities. And yeah, we definitely need to know how to do this, how to implement the system and generate a commitment in the end of the project so we can have a project where we can get the resources and bridge the gaps that we have in the analysis and the focus points. This has been very important. We have some of them. They keep performing activities and they are collecting all the information, some workshops with um, with the organizations from our country that are responsible for health. We have some other workshops for strategic planning, and in this case, we will see what are the gaps that we have identified and how can we bridge them. In the short run and the long run, we have some other actions that will be very important to address these problems. So, yeah, this is what we do. So, as a conclusion, the cooperation with FAO has been remarkable. So we can implement more um, strategies, and it has to do with what a Chipia can do and what are the best options for our food controls. Chile has been able to have access to important tools and high level specialists, and I feel that the cooperation allow us to identify gaps, and the only way of making this possible is through cooperation. And we will see how can we interact with other systems like the uh, animal health, vegetal health, and economic and public systems. And we should remember that we cannot leave anyone behind, right? And improve the system in Chile, and everybody that want to work with our initiatives or learn from our perspectives. I know we are doing a good job in terms of food safety. And in the same vein, if you want to join us in our seminar, we will be in Chile on site, but it will be also broadcasted online. And it's this Friday, and we will be here talking about some challenges in the food production. And the idea is to work with modern tools, especially AI, right? Artificial intelligence, just to understand what's the role of artificial intelligence in our current scenario, and maybe it's a very important tool for the future and find solutions. Okay, thank you so much for your time, and hope my intervention has been an enjoyable one. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for your presentation. Now we'll have the presentation. We will talk about estimating the global burden of foodborne diseases. And this will be shared with us by Dr. Andres Santos. Dr. Andres Santos is a chemical engineer. He's an expert in food safety. He has a master's degree and a PhD in polymer science. And he did this at the University of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. So right now he's the advisor of food safety and surveillance at Panaftosa and VPH, PAHO, and WHO. So his role is to provide technical cooperation to the countries in the Americas to strengthen their food safety systems. So we will continue the focus One Health. We will talk about addressing foodborne diseases and antimicrobial resistance and the whole chain of value of food from the farm to the table. So go ahead, Andre, you have the floor. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I will share my screen. All right, so I think you can see my screen now. So good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. And thank you to all of those that came before me. And I would like to also greet everyone that is here with us. I would like to say that the idea of this presentation is to share with you the work that is being done by WHO to estimate the global burden of foodborne diseases. So I will begin highlighting that it's a human right, a basic human right, to have access to safe, nutritious food that is healthy. And to guarantee this right, the governments need to make sure that the available food will comply with the food safety standards. And this is something that is not easy because the world now is more interconnected than ever, and the food systems are changing faster than ever. So that's why I would like to talk about the view of the global strategy from WHO for food safety, which is that everyone, everywhere, should have safe and healthy food to reduce the burden of foodborne diseases. So this strategy uh, provides to all the stakeholders the tools that they need to strengthen their national health systems and their food safety systems, and to also we see that these systems are changing, and we need to reach the development goals, the sustainable development goals, and all of this. So it's important to highlight also that one of the indicators that is proposed at this world strategy for food safety from the WHO is related to the incidence of diarrheal diseases, and with the work that has been done by WHO to estimate the global burden of foodborne diseases. And also, it has the goal to reduce by 40% the global average. So I would like to also, before we move on with the work that WHO is doing, I would like to establish a link with this work and why this why are we preparing ourselves for the unexpected? First, I would like to talk about the fact of the possible food-borne outbreaks, and it's important that the systems are resilient. And that's because these outbreaks can really test our capacity to respond, the capacity of our health systems and also our food safety authorities. So, as we estimate the burden of these diseases and as we understand the impact, we can understand and strengthen our preparation and also our response capacity to manage the events that are unexpected. Also, it is important to have conditions of identifying these risks early, these emerging risks early. So this can help us to identify patterns, new pathogens, and also changes in the epidemiology of the existing diseases. And this allows us to respond quickly and effectively to contain and control their risks before they become emergencies, public health emergencies. Besides that, we also have training and resources. This would provide a solid foundation to assign resources and to allocate resources for the planning of training. So this is so to be prepared for the unexpected implies in having appropriate resources. For example, to train the public health teams, the labs, and also the whole surveillance system. And in the same manner, it's important also to bring awareness and education to the different stakeholders within our food chain about the associated risks um, uh, associated to these diseases and to foster safe practices in the handling and preparation of food. Very well. So now, with the work that the WHO is doing, and in 2007, rather, the WHO prepared this technical advisory group, this experts group, which is uh, the acronym in English is FERG, and the purpose of this group is to, and it still is to estimate the global burden of the disease, which is commonly, foodborne. So this is the Foodborne Disease Burden Epidemiology Reference Group. So in 2015, they published the first estimates of this global burden. And now I present the main outcomes of this report that was presented by WHO in 2015. And this was mentioned in the previous presentations. And in the and basically this causes a loss of 33 million in health per year and 420,000 deaths per year. So here we have, this is a bit small, but we have the main etiological agents of these foodborne diseases. These are global results. So we have listeria, brucella, cholera. We have hepatitis A, toxoplasmosis. We also have aflatoxina, pork tapeworm, and we also have also the and here we have the data, regional data for that same report. And in our region, the main agents are norovirus, Campylobacter, E. coli, non-typhoidal salmonella, as well as, globally speaking, toxoplasmosis and pork tapeworm. Um, this also is a major concern in Central and South America. So in 2020, the World Health Assembly, um, they issued a new resolution, and they asked the state members to focus on health in a way that we can promote sustainability and the availability of safe and nutritional food for all the populations, acknowledging the threats to food safety, including antimicrobial resistance. We also have climate change. And also in this resolution, we call on the state members to also establish national systems and also to share important information about outbreaks of these foodborne diseases. So they requested the secretariat, the OMS secretariat, FERG's secretariat, to update the global strategy for food safety, so we can deal with these emerging threats and to establish innovating mechanisms to protect the supply of food. And also it was asked that we would strengthen the leadership with the codex, and also we it was asked that the countries issued updated reports regarding foodborne diseases. So in 2021, the WHO reconvened this group, the FAIR group, to advise on or to develop the methodology to update global estimates. And then FERG will support the WHO objectives to publish these updated estimates according to what was as requested by the member states of the World Assembly, and also to develop a monitoring framework to measure impact of food safety, and also to support the countries to strengthen national capacity to estimate the burden of foodborne diseases. So now I would like to present a small timeline of the work that has been done by the WHO, supported by this FERG group. So this started in 2006, and the first FERG group was convened in 2007. The first outcomes of the first estimate was issued in 2015. In 2020, the World Health Assembly asked the WHO to work on this update. And then in 2021, the second FERG group was convened. And by 2025, the idea is that we have the updated estimates to be published. So the FERG will support the WHO through advice to how this estimation methodology should work, the review of epidemiological data, to identify also the technical gaps and what are the priorities for research activities, also formulating recommendations, and also to provide advice to WHO on development and methodology for monitoring indicators. So what are the expected results in October 2025? So firstly, we have the metrics. So that would be divided in an incidence, number of death, life years adjusted for disability, and we have also the data can be aggregated, or they can be joined by the type of risk or the national, regional, and global level, or the risks or age. So this is new actually. Before we only had regional and global, but now we have national as well. It's also important to say that the national data is confidential. So the countries can have their own data, but it's not shared. And also, in the same way, we will have a time series from 2000 to the present. So here we have a chart with the main risks for which estimates of the foodborne disease burden are being considered for. So what is in red here are the new hazards, and what we have in purple here are also new, but they had been estimated before, but not with official data from WHO. So it's important also to highlight that Any data collection will be done through systematic reviews. And here we have an informative table of what are the groups that will be participating in this collection of data. It's important also to say that once again, the World Bank and the WHO will be working together in these estimations, especially for the estimates of the economic impact of the foodborne diseases. This also has been mentioned. We have the economic measures that are related to the foodborne diseases. And also it's important to highlight that in the beginning of the year, PAHO has issued an open call so experts can participate in this evaluation and the estimation of these foodborne diseases. And 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 now I will go back to the topic of the global strategy for food safety. Since this FERG group will support the monitoring and evaluation session of the strategy, advising about the development and methodology for monitoring food safety-related indicators and corresponding targets. As I mentioned before, we have an indicator that mentions the work that the FER group has done. So this is an example. This is a publication, rather, from the WHO that was the estimate of the burden of foodborne diseases. This is a manual, a handbook, a practical handbook based on pilot studies that have been done in Albania, Japan, Thailand, and Uganda. And the idea is to create this handbook to support the countries that can use it so that they can monitor their estimates in a consistent manner. So now I will go on and I will talk about how the communication works between the member states and WHO. So we created a country portal for each country. And this portal, we have the data exchange and the communication happens between member states and WHO. So it's a national portal. So this is a space, a specific space for each country, and we can exchange files. We can have confidential collaboration. And as I mentioned before, we have the data from each country is confidential. These are not published. And also, we may receive preliminary estimates of the foodborne disease burden or the national burden of foodborne disease. So now what we are doing in PAHO to support WHO is to identify within these countries who are the focal points, the national focal points. And in this case, it's important to say that you don't need to be an expert in every risk. So what is most important is that the focal points will have conditions, will be able to find the right expert or team to provide information that is necessary for each risk. And these focal points will have access to the portal. So here we have the target, right? The WHO target, which is to reach 150 countries. So right now we have 71 countries, but I think we actually have a few more because in how we are following up on this, and some countries just responded and they have also sent us their focal points. So I would like to share with you as well a small schedule or timeline the expected timeline. So this will start next year. So this is where the activities begin with the countries, because right now we are working we're working on the preparation, the training, so that the countries can have the right conditions to, with the WHO, so that we can confirm the available information from each country. So in March of 2025, the idea would be that based on the data information that the WHO experts will collect, the idea is that we will share this with the countries, and this would be the preliminary data. So starting in March till May of 2025, we will then do the country queries, or we will do a consultation with the countries, we will validate the data, and then after that, if necessary, the WHO would revise the estimates, and then after that, in March, the idea would be that when, well, in that case, WHO would share the final reviews for publication. This would be published in October of 2025, and in May of 2026, we will, the report will be, carried out in the World Health Assembly. So we would finalize this report. So in another timeline, but this, what I mentioned before is that now the most important thing, or what is crucial for us, is to engage the countries, the governments, rather, through the national portal. And it's important that we nominate the focal points to do this work, take into account that this can be a multi-sectorial team. And here, as we see highlighted in yellow, is, as I mentioned, is where we are doing the training. We have the webinars focused on these focal points, and so that we can have conditions to advance and to validate everything in March of next year. So, and then to wrap up, I would like to introduce an example here of how this data will be available. So this is how the system will look. So this is a system or a dashboard that is very interactive. And so we can see here the results in a geographic manner on a global, regional, or national level. As we said before, we have the demographics as well. We have the age ranges, we have the hazards, we have also the mortality rates. And lastly, we have this example here that also is based on it's based on the system here. We have the Campylobacter here in this case, age less than 5. So this would be the ones that would be more affected by that disease, the countries that are in red, that would be more affected by this pathogen. So basically, this is how this this would be the work that WHO is doing. So I'd like to thank you once again, and thank you very much. I give over the floor.
Muchas gracias, André.
Thank you very much, Andre. So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to greet everyone that is here with us today. So now we're going to go to topic 3 from our agenda, that is called Perspectives on Food Safety, the Role of Different Actors. And for that, we have put together a panel that is made up by representatives from the government, the academy, and the civil society and the private sector. So we have many colleagues that are helping us here. We have Darin Suka from the academy sector. He is a researcher from the University of the West Indies, from the St. Augustine campus in Trinidad and Tobago. From the private sector, we have Cesar Perez. He is the president of Frescura Tropical in the Dominican Republic, and Camilo Montes, who is the president of the Latin American Alliance of Food and Beverage Industry Association, ALAYAB, in Costa Rica. And we have also from the civil society, we have Sandra Herrera, who is an industrial engineer and is an independent consultant from Colombia. So welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for being here with us. So before I give the floor to the members of this panel, I would like to remind everyone that you can ask questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom and also through the YouTube chat. This question can be for the participants of this panel as well as for the previous speakers. So now I will ask 2 questions to each one of you that are here in this panel, and you will have 5 minutes to answer both questions. So if necessary, I will let you know how much time you have if 1 minute is left. So the questions are, what is my responsibility regarding food safety? And how can we be prepared for the unexpected? So to answer these questions, we will go through in order. We'll start with Utalia, then Darin, Cesar, then Camilo Santos. So Utalia, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning, or it's morning, or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me today. What is our role or my role in food safety? Well, food safety is everybody's business, but each of us have our specific roles. And some of the things that I do as it relates to food safety is I serve on the Food Safety Committee at the Bureau of Standards nationally, that is in St. Lucia. And on that committee, we ensure that the standards and the regulations that are in the country meets the needs in both internationally and nationally. I also conduct training on food safety at many levels at the college, also with all our different agro processors, our farmers. Food safety, like I said, is everybody's business. So therefore, we need to also train our farmers. And I think one of the persons that are being neglected in food safety training, our farmers. I find we don't pay specific attention to how our farmers need to know about food safety. Also, our fishers, some of the areas that are being neglected should be one of those that we need to be looking at in terms of food safety. I also design agro-food processing plants to ensure that they observe all the good hygiene practices, the good manufacturing practices, to ensure that whenever they are processing, that all the systems are in place to prevent food safety cross-contamination. Other areas are development of standard operating procedures, which are very important to ensure that there's consistency in what persons do in their plants. And they can also do checks. When you have the operating procedures, you can also have a checklist that will ensure that all of those things are observed to ensure that there's no contamination happening. Another area is the implementation of HACCP. So after we have this, put in the good hygiene practices and the plant operation, the plant systems in place, it is important that the next step for our processors or our pack houses move into those kind of systems, a system like HACCP or HACCP itself. The other areas that we look at is in terms of how would we prepare if there's an emergency, or what way are we getting ourselves ready for that? And I look at several ways that we can do that. One of the areas is to ensure that persons are aware. And I find the country on a whole, a lot of persons are not aware of food safety systems and or even of food safety at all. So that there need to at least be some form of announcements or public announcements as to what is food safety and how people should prepare themselves in terms of disaster. So when a hurricane is coming, one of the things that they do, they announce how the weather is, but in terms of preparation, we don't tell people about how to prepare, how to prepare themselves for their food. And they tell you, yes, you collect food, but they don't tell you how to keep it safe and how you should preserve it. And none of that is said. So one of those things we did, I remember one time where I created a training course which is called a hurricane pack, and where in that training course it basically was about how to prepare your food for a hurricane or something like that. The other areas we need to prepare ourselves is how do you prepare your farm and to make sure that the food is safe from floods. And I'm working with several farmers now where we have come up with systems where they plant in bags and so on, or containers, although it's underneath the soil. If a system is coming, you can easily just take the bag or the container from underneath the ground and put it in a safe place so that you can have food later, and then it's not contaminated with flood waters and so on. So we have to also look at how we put a emergency plan. So every HACCP system, even when we're doing the standard operating procedures, we have an emergency plan, and that emergency plan will tell the processor or the agro processor, the farmer, what are the different steps they need to take in order to preserve their foods, to ensure it is safe, to ensure if there's any emergency, any problem, that everything is in place. So basically, this is what I want to say for now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Talia. Ahora vamos a darle la palabra a Darín, por favor.
All right, now we will give the floor to Mr. Darin. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, good day to everyone. It's indeed a pleasure to share in the celebration of World Food Safety Day and to be a part of this panel. Actually, food safety it has taken a personal relevance to me in the last couple of days because I actually have been battling a mild case of food poisoning. So this has a personal relevance to me. And so what is my responsibility regarding food safety? Now, I'm a food technologist at the Cocoa Research Center at the University of the West Indies, and part of my activities is to do research and training. So in that role for food safety and cocoa and chocolate research is training to create awareness. I've been doing this now for almost 30 years. June 1st made it 29 years that I've been working in cocoa, and I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. And in many cocoa producing regions in the world, cocoa is not viewed as a food ingredient because many of the farmers and processors are so far removed from the final product. Many of them have never tasted chocolate before. So they do not view this cocoa bean as a food ingredient. So this disconnection gives rise to several food safety challenges in the post-harvest handling of cocoa during the critical stages of fermentation, drying, storage, transportation, and it leads to compromised quality in the context of the physical, chemical, and microbial contamination or risks that will arise. And I mean, I've been to some chocolate factories, and it's really a horror story to see some of the things that come with the cocoa beans, and it's because there's this disconnect. Thankfully, this disconnection between raw cocoa beans and as a key ingredient in chocolate is now changing with the growth of bean to bar chocolates in most cocoa growing or cocoa origin countries. But there's still a lot to do in creating awareness about food safety, risks, and hazard, as well as what are the approaches to mitigate, minimize, and to eliminate them. And I think once we get the value chain stakeholders to view cocoa as a food ingredient, like how we view rice or maize, you immediately get a positive change in how it is treated and handled. And the food safety risks tend to decrease. On the other side of it is making chocolate. I have been to a number of bean to bar operations in the region, in Latin America, Caribbean, and the same notion of how we make our food, the same food handling practices and more applies to making chocolate. So again, it's about creating awareness. And when we teach chocolate making training, there is a component that we capture in terms of food safety, not mixing raw cocoa beans with finished chocolate, and separation of spaces for storage and processing, and so on. So the next question: how can we be prepared for the unexpected? I think in cocoa and chocolate-based food safety systems, understanding what the risks are and how to mitigate and manage them are critical considerations. And in this regard, as the previous speaker would have mentioned, adopting the hazard analysis critical control points approach is an invaluable tool. And you can actually apply a HACCP-based mindset to the cocoa value chain, both in terms of the pre-harvest, post-harvest, and secondary processing into chocolate. And HACCP is indeed an invaluable tool in providing a systematic preventative approach to identify, evaluate, and control the different food safety risks, physical, chemical, etc. And additionally, keeping abreast of new literature and the new and upcoming industry regulations are also very important. So, for example, we have MRL values for heavy metals such as cadmium in cocoa. There's another one for aluminum as well. So these are some of the key things that we need to really be prepared for. Also, there's an overarching concern about climate change. How does this affect the growing, processing of cocoa beans? Drying, for example, in most countries is carried out in as open floor sun drying, and with irregular weather systems, you have the growth of secondary mold that can lead to ochratoxin risks, etc. So having an understanding of what the new risks are is also a critical element. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Darren. Very interesting challenge. César, te doy la palabra, por favor.
All right, so Cesar, I give you the floor. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to all the leaders of PAHO, FAO, Ecuador, and also the different agencies that are here, IICA. So we from the Dominican Republic, we are now facing a challenge because we're receiving approximately, since 2023, 10,500,000 tourists. And we did a statistical study of the population. We're talking about 23 million inhabitants every year that we need to feed. In the private sector and the government side, we have also established a relation between the government and the private sector. And we have been training the technicians about about how to maintain their farms in specific sectors to maintain the cold chain. So the idea is to to supervise and to fight against any molds, any bacteria, and weeds as well. And we also have been working in each production site in the Dominican Republic. We have hydrothermal treatment, and these are plants that basically store products. And there we have intermediaries and producers. They clean out their farming products before they distribute them to the supermarkets. So before they go onto the exports chains as well. So following the protocols for food safety, we also manage fruits, vegetables, and general products to make sure that we can ensure the quality of the products within our local markets and also in the export markets. We in the Dominican Republic, we are exporting to all of Central America, and we're now opening exports to Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua. And also, we're already exporting to Panama and Costa Rica. And also, we export to all the islands, Puerto Rico, St. Martin, St. Kitts, St. Lucia. And we also export to the United States, Europe, Canada, and basically all the food safety departments do is that they control all the distribution channels so that we can always have 100% food safety so that we can comply with all the health protocols. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, César, por tu intervención.
Thank you very much, Cesar, for your comments. Now we'll go on to Camilo. Well, firstly, thank you very much. And before I begin, thank you, Pao, thank you, Director Mario, for inviting us. IAP is the alliance that represents 26 different chambers in 26 different countries. And we're very happy to participate in this very important activity because this not only reminds us the importance of food, but also specifically food safety. It's crucial that we maintain, that we keep doing these meetings, because I would like to remind all the participants here that between 85 and 97% of the industries that are in our region in Latin America and the Caribbean are micro, small, and medium-sized industries. So answering the first question about our responsibility along these lines, I believe the first one and the most important one is safe production. Remembering that the industry implements production practices, both in the raw materials and the different production steps, and also what happens within the production plants and the processing and packaging processes, and what happens in the plant after distribution and finally to the end consumer. So this requires compliance of the industry. So we need to comply with the standards. All of our countries in Latin America and the Caribbean have reference standards, whether because they are mandatory standards or also voluntary technical standards. All of them are inspired in the Codex Alimentarius. And this is something that is very important. And this is something that FAO has been really advocating for globally. But the compliance of these standards implies that all the industries need to be updated. So we need to follow legal standards, but the standard needs to be implemented. That's very important. And then we have also training and education. So the industry has a huge responsibility to train their personnel, not only those that work directly in the industry, but the whole value chain, and also hygiene and safe handling practices. And these and also important and complex issues such as quality control. And the person that works in the food industry needs to comply with these requirements or these standards. But that also relates to transparency and communication, which is the fourth element that I would like to highlight here. The food industry has to provide, as we do, clear and precise information about the ingredients. And this also in the packaging and labeling process. So we need to detect any potential hazards associated to beverages and food. And of course, transparency and communication with our consumers. And this is important not only to build trust, but also it helps the consumers to decide what they should eat or not. And also we have risk management, and this is a topic that is very important for the small and medium-sized companies, especially. The larger ones have been doing this already, and this allows all the industries to identify and manage these hazards, whether it's chemical contaminants, biologic contaminants, as previous speakers have mentioned, but it also means to implement. Besides risk management, we also need to have control systems for our food safety. And the other question is, how are we prepared for the unexpected? I believe that the COVID pandemic has taught us many things. Firstly, if we do what we have always been doing, we will only achieve what we have always achieved. So this doesn't help us with the unexpected things from climate change or the ways that the supply chains work today. So it forces us to implement robust innovation systems that allows us to get ahead of the consumer requirements, also the new challenges that our operations have within our countries, but also the adoption of more technologies that will help us to solve many of these challenges. And the second one is an appropriate risk identification. So this also needs to work hand in hand with quality management for our food safety. And our previous speakers have also talked about this. But I also only want to highlight that this responsibility to prepare ourselves for the unexpected not only is associated to what happens within the production plants, but also in the preparation of the raw materials and distribution. And this relates to the implementation of the systems, the food safety systems. Someone also talked about the HACCP, which are these, critical points and risk identification systems. And this is very important to manage any issues with food safety. Also, we have personal training. We already talked about that because risk management requires this resilience. And so the personnel needs to have that. And we need to have contingency plans. We need to build clear protocols. For example, removing products from the market if there is any requirement from the authorities, but also we need to be ready for any possible risks that may be found within the quality management systems. So we also need to be working together with the regulation agencies, and we also need to have a robust surveillance system that will allow us also to trace these products. And we need to be prepared for all these changes, and we need to work together with the authorities, with the surveillance agencies, and all the stakeholders. So we need to have a rapid response to any emergency related to food safety. So in the food and beverages industries of our region, we believe that we need to strengthen our food banks as well and our human aid programs as well. So finally, I wanted to finish with a last thought. So this food safety idea is a collective responsibility. We all have a role. The producers, the consumers, the industry, the government, the academy, the civil society. That's why we at the industry, the food and beverage industry, we commit to food safety and we want to advocate for the well-being of our consumers. Thank you very much for this invitation. Thank you very much, Camilo from the private sector. And now we will go with our last participant, which is Sandra Herrera from the civil society. Go ahead.
Buenos días.
Good morning. Well, I'm here to represent the consumers because although I am a food engineer and I have been working in the quality of food, I've also focused on consumers. So one of the most important points in the role of the consumers is related to food safety and that we have to be aware that we are consumers as we're all consumers as such. Because throughout all these years that I've worked on this issue, we didn't have that awareness of the importance of the consumer and how how food impacts our lives. So thanks to the pandemic, we were able to start to have greater awareness about this. That in this case, we were aware that we are all consumers and of the impact that food has in our lives and all the aspects that surround this issue. And this has um, has improved this situation comprehensively. Another important point is that as a consumer, we need to be aware of the best manufacturing practices or hygiene as well in the preparation of food, for example. And we also have to maintain the cold chain of the food. So if I buy the food in the supermarket and meanwhile I take it to my home, so I need to make sure that the food is stored appropriately. And also we need to educate ourselves. So that's also very important for the topic today. So we need to also see what are the factors that affect food safety. And as uh, we mentioned before, we have hygiene, And we also have education and training about what is the information that is given to us, right, by the food suppliers. So we need to have the right information. This is our right as consumers. So to have an important role, an appropriate role, we need to get appropriate education. And this is a point that we have seen that the consumers are doing better in this regard, thanks to the pandemic as well, and also because of a global trend that we see. So if we analyze this, part of all the information that we see in the networks right now, much of what the influencers do is focused in the food sector, right? You need to eat this or that, and that's why it's very important for the consumers to be educated and informed, because there's also a lack of information or fake news. So through the influencers, we can also have fake news because and most of the influencers don't really have appropriate training, right? So that's why it's our role or the producers need to make sure they are providing the right information about this issue. Another important point is to complain, right, or to bring things up. And this also is related to the second part, or the second question rather, which is what happens when unexpected things happen. So when we find a product, for example, a product that is expired, and or that, for example, has some sort of contamination. So the consumer should be able to complain, and the supplier should be informed if there is any food contamination, and they should be able to go to the supermarket where they bought this food, and then this should reach the whole chain so that we can make sure that we can guarantee a proper management of this risk, and that the suppliers can also be informed of what has happened. So this is related to the unexpected events. So I believe that everything that has been mentioned about health, uh, for example, regarding information, education, so we need to also, you know, we need to learn how to read the food labels, for instance. We need to know what are what is the contents of the food that we eat by reading the labels. Also, we should also know how to read the cooking instructions or the storage instructions. So that helps us to make sure that we have food safety. And also, this also helps us to manage an unexpected event. So we as consumers in general, if we know our rights and if we know these strategies, we can respond to these unexpected events. So I believe that this is all very important, and we need to work together with all the stakeholders of this chain so that the consumers get appropriate education, and we should also use the communication media so we can really, disseminate the information appropriately. All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Sandra, for your comments. Thank you, everyone that is participating in this panel. Thank you for your answers. It was very interesting to get to know the different views that of those that are part of this food system. So thank you very much. So now we will go on to the last session, which is the Q&A session. So we ask all the panelists that have been part of this activity to please be aware if you get any questions. So the first questions from Martin Nunes is a question for Victor Rivera from Achipia. And the question is about the codex principles, if this includes the governmental personnel associated to food control. Victor, well, thank you, Miguel, and thank you to the person that asked the question. Effectively, the Codex guidelines does incorporate the competencies of the food system and the training of the personnel, and that's very important because not only we have the competencies or skills that someone has that participates of this food control system or the professional, but also to have training to hold that position and also to have constant updates because the challenges, the food safety challenges change, the hazards and the way that these risks are presented also in food changes as well. So we have also a lot of challenges regarding legislation changes as well. In Chile, we update our regulations constantly, so that's why the inspectors, the lab personnel, everyone needs to be really at the vanguard of all this, and this requires efforts from our control systems to really make sure we have trained personnel. And that in the Codex guidelines, it's in the FAO instruments that we're applying in certain skills, right, regarding the qualification and how we foster training and capacity building in people. And, and finally, the whole management of human resources and the motivation of personnel to be able to keep their talents within their institutions. So this is in the codex, and this has been implemented in the tool that FAO has issued.
Muchas gracias, Víctor, por tu
All right, thank you
respuesta.
very much, Victor, for your answer. We'll go on to the next one. This is from Ali Racon and a question for André dos Santos from PAHO. So has WHO issued any report about the foodborne diseases that is more updated than the report of 2015? And did the pandemic affect that outcome? Well, thank you, Gil, and thank you, Dalia. No, we don't have anything since 2015, but everything that I mentioned is to update this report from 2015. So in 2025, at the end of the year, we will have the data, updated data. All right. Thank you very much, Andrea. So the other question is for you as well. So this is a question by Thiago Poeta that asks, what are the main challenges to proceed with the estimates of the global foodborne burden? All right, so this is an interesting question, and I think that the countries or the competent authorities can maybe help me to answer this question, but effectively speaking, I would say that firstly, we have the lack of records. So many of these foodborne diseases are not reported, and also the variability in the symptoms and the pathogens as well. And this can present a wide array of symptoms. And in the same way, we have the availability and the quality of the data, and also we have the challenges that may exist in the labs for the diagnosis of these diseases. It's also the behavior as well of the population, the cultural practices, environmental factors as well. But the most important thing, perhaps, would be to say that there are many challenges, and that is why we need a collaboration between agencies, between the health public agencies, the researchers, also, medical providers, and all the stakeholders of the surveillance world, so we can have effective data that reflects the reality, so that the authorities can take appropriate measures. Perfect. Thank you very much, Andre. We have another question for you, actually. So, sorry. This question is from Leonardo Rojas, and he asks, why, if we're talking about foodborne diseases, why is the information confidential? And why do we not let the interested parties so that they can take appropriate measures? Well, thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Leonardo. And actually, I would like to clarify that, yes, the data is public of the regional estimates and the global estimates. So that is all public information. Someone asked something similar, and I shared in the chat box where you can have access to this data. What is confidential, and this is up to the countries. So the national data is confidential because the authorities are the ones that have the responsibility over that data. So if the countries don't want to share that data, then the policy, the confidentiality policy of WHO does not allow us to share that information. So this is up to the countries. Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrea. So the next question, it's for the different delegates. I think they're talking about all those from the panel. So the question is, if a private company sells canned products that have dents in them, would they be going against the food safety of this product? And how can the government authorities take measures to sanction the company besides issuing a fine? So I think there's a problem here, and they're trying to address this from different angles. So maybe the private sector can answer this first, and then maybe we can give the floor to Victor.
¿Quieres César adelante y luego complemento?
Gracias,
Maybe
Camilo.
Cesar, and then I can add. All right, thank you very much. So regarding this question, there are many products that are imported. So we 70% of everything we consume is imported in the Dominican Republic. So automatically speaking, we import and we verify that the health department will quarantine any products that is dented. And then we check any expiry dates, we check with the importer, and then we verify this. But instead of throwing everything away, basically is we donate it, right? So we don't sell it in the supermarkets, but we don't throw it away. So I don't know, Camilo, if you have any other comments about this. Yes, so the first thing is that our countries in Latin America and the Caribbean have been evolving from the standards aspect regarding traceability. So firstly, we need to identify where this food comes from, who is responsible of the selling of this product, of the importing, and where we need to have more capacities to make sure that the person responsible for that food, we have to make sure that they are complying with the standards that I mentioned before. So the same companies have also been improving their quality management system. So these companies have systems that allow us to trace and to follow up on each batch, and they're able to also analyze different samples, throughout time, and they make sure that the food is appropriate for consumption. So then also, like Sandra said, when we get a complaint, we follow up on that specific product. And now answering the specific question about the canned products, we need to acknowledge first that thanks to science and technology, food technology, the canned food specifically, this allows us to extend the shelf life of this food, but also this type of packaging helps us to guarantee the storage in the long term and also transportation. But when we have cans that are dented or damaged, the guidelines that we provide to the industry and the consumers is what Cesar mentioned. So we need to review if the food safety of that can is maintained. Not only because the can is damaged, it doesn't necessarily mean that the food is bad. So we don't have to throw everything away. So we need to analyze it first, and we need to get experts or technical opinion to know if we can maintain food safety, because wasting food just because of how the packaging looks also leads us to the destruction of food that can be useful for human consumption. So that would be my answer, Miguel. All right, thank you very much, Camilo. All right, so we have received many questions, very interesting questions, but our time is up. I believe you have the contact details of the speakers in case you have any specific questions. So thank you very much to everyone for participating. I believe that before I give the floor to Andre for the closing remarks, we're going to take a picture. Andre, I don't know if anyone has that information, so maybe we can turn on the cameras. Yes, I would like to invite you to turn on your cameras so that we can take a picture. I'm going to also extend that invitation to the interpreters and also to the whole team that worked with us, the speakers, the moderators, and so please open your cameras. I don't know, Danny, Jonatas.
Jonathan, no sé si nos puedes ayudar tú. Yo tengo con un problema
Jonatas,
de...
can you help us? I'm having an internet problem. I can't really take all the pictures. All right, yes, so good afternoon. Yes, we will save this in YouTube in any case. All right, so can I go on with the closing remarks? So I would like to thank everyone. Thank you very much. And I would like to say that so we had a peak of almost 700 participants. So we had 690 participants. Well, 602 participants in our highest peak. And this because besides the participants, we also have the moderators and speakers. So 702, I think it's amazing. So thank you very much to all the speakers, all the moderators, the participants, and especially the interpreters. And I would also like to thank especially because we heard a lot about the importance of collaboration and multi-sectorial action. And I would like to say that to work with all the agencies, all the organizing agencies of this event was also a luxury. It was amazing. And I would like to mention some names of some people, Jonatas from Pajo, Daniela, also Lorena from ICA, Raul from Oirsa, Miguel y Angeles from FAO. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. And finally, I would like to invite everyone once again to join us in this important effort to advocate for food safety. This is something that is the responsibility of all of us, and I think together we can have a more prosperous and healthy future. So with that, we will adjourn. Thank you very much once again, and everyone have a great afternoon. Bye bye.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias a todos. Un abrazo.